Okay. Hello and welcome back to Signal Over Noise, the podcast designed to help you see clearly through the fog of fake news and distraction, identify what matters to you, and set about getting after it in the most effective manner possible. Today's episode is all about 6 ways that you're currently being manipulated online, with actionable points on how you can prevent that happening in the future. It's an exploration in part of Cass Sunstein's new book, Manipulation, and in part of some insights that we've made ourselves around 6 key psychological insights that marketers and social media engineers are currently using to keep you hooked, unhappy, and spending money. A little bit on Cass Sunstein. Who is he? He's a Harvard professor of behavioral economics. And this book, Manipulation, I think is a must read for gaining a deeper understanding into how common psychological tripwires and short circuits can and are being exploited to make you and me dance to somebody else's tune. So first, we're going to outline these 6 psychological manipulations, and then we'll propose solutions for avoiding them going forwards. But before we get into that, let's define manipulation. Let's define it as the process of taking away someone's sovereign decision-making capacity for making considered decisions. What do you reckon, Sam? Definition of manipulation?
Man, all I could think about is Google listening to me. You know that feeling when you look on your whatever onto Google or on Facebook and suddenly you see all these adverts for these things you've been talking about with your pals. You're like, I swear I've never put that online. I swear I've never verbalized that anywhere near my phone. You're like, shit, Google must be listening. And I do feel like that is, even just in a small way, part of manipulation. Somehow they've managed to get that information out of me and trying to make me act upon it.
I think a really effective manipulation is essentially making you perform an action or a behavior that you feel and think was by your own design, but actually was the actions and behaviors that somebody else wanted you to carry out for their self-interest.
As I've recently been looking at TikTok Shop, just trying to understand what it is. And pretty much all of it is impulse buys. Is what I've realized. It's just loads of like little gadgets that are like silly little like £1 or £2 things from Alibaba. And I'm thinking, I feel like the whole of that shop is just like impulse buys. An impulse purchase must be a piece of manipulation, right? You did not go into somewhere and intend to purchase something. Instead, you saw like a 30-second TikTok that made it look like a really clever tool to open up wine bottles quicker or whatever. But like that, like perhaps is one of these like online ways of manipulating us. And frankly, I'm sure TikTok Shop is making hundreds and hundreds of millions in sales nowadays. So manipulation on a big scale. Thank you, TikTok.
Yeah, and I think the important question, and the whole reason for doing this episode today is it delivering hundreds of millions of pounds or dollars of genuine value into people's lives, be that through increased joy, happiness, purpose, meaning, or safety, security, any of those things? I think it's a big fat no. And I think that's where the manipulation is. The pitch and the premise is you're basically massaging out of your TikTok user a certain set of emotions or feelings that, oh yeah, I do feel like this thing would actually genuinely enhance my life. And then once you've got that massaged up, you like almost like, I don't know, whack-a-mole, you just make the sale and then, you know, it doesn't matter. You just move on to the next thing. It's almost like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a non-medical analogy. Medically, I'm thinking like popping a zip basically, but instead of bad stuff coming out that you can afford to get rid of, it's good stuff that you could probably do with holding on to. And what you're getting in exchange is the contents of the zip basically, but it's cheap and it's shiny. And when it gets to you, you're like, oh, great. Don't need it.
You need to do more medical analogies. That was beautiful. I'm not a Dr. Pimple kind of guy, but that was gorgeous. Keep them coming, boy.
Yeah, okay. So let's get into those 6 then, shall we? So some of them, like I said, are from this Cass Sunstein manipulation book, which I think is really good. And some of them are my own. Perceived effort is number 1. So when I was sort of reading around and researching his book, one of the interviews he did to promote the book, Cass Sunstein spoke about how it took him 15 years to write the book. Now, what does that make you think, Sam?
He wasn't very focused.
Yeah, so perhaps you might think he's an extremely slow writer, and perhaps that he's been busy doing other stuff in his 15 years. But like it might also make you think, wow, like what a well-considered and informative piece of work. I imagine lots of painstaking efforts gone into doing revisions and making it, you know, just right and good for market. if that last one rings a bell for you, then basically you're on the hook for a world of unnecessary purchases. What about when, Dyson vacuums tell you that they've iterated 3,000 times to produce this particular handheld vacuum device? Does that mean that it's 3,000 times better than the first one? Does it matter to you at all? I think the question is, does it suck up the dirt and leave behind the carpet at a price point that's acceptable to you and make the act of vacuuming as minimally sort of awful as possible? Not like how much effort's gone into it. Like it's about the quality of the product. Another interesting one that wasn't in his book, but it's one that's blows my mind is when you're on Skyscanner or Google Flights or whatever you're doing, searching for cheap flights. What they always do is, they basically draw in all the data about all the pricings, and then they give you a loading bar that they've created to take as long as they want it to, and they give you all the good deals at the end. So it makes it feel like they've gone to the edge of the earth, or there's been a bit of back and forth in the background, and they've really milked out this great price. And actually all they've done is just deliberately chosen the order in which they present the prices to make it seem like they've done extra work for you. So basically, this is a type of manipulation where, perceived effort going into a product or a service is not the same as a high quality product or service. The fact that it's taken them ages to get to that price, doesn't affect what the price is and whether or not you can afford it really, but it does make you view them more favorably.
Isn't there, a rule? It might even be from 48 Laws of Power, but it's definitely called the rule of reciprocity, which is if somebody does something for you, you feel like you owe them. Humans don't like it when we owe each other things. And so we almost feel like we owe that person something in return, be that a website that says, here are the best deals. If we see it's gone that extra mile and found these, we might say, cool, okay, this time I'm not going to go directly to the EasyJet website. I'm just going to go buy directly from the link to Skyscanner and make sure they get their cut, because they went so much further than, yeah.
Because the good people at Skyscanner put in so much effort last time, as if it's all not fully automated.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
The little code monkeys, not the developers. Sorry, developers. We're trying so hard to make it work and find those deals for me.
Yeah. And Cass Sunstein actually uses a really good example of him basically getting fleeced buying a car. And he goes into a car dealership on a Saturday, and the guy that's selling in the car is like, Saturday's a really slow day for us. So I've been back and forth with the manager, and I've just managed to work a good price for you just because it's Saturday and you've come. And, it's almost like you say, there's that reciprocity that then Cass Sunstein then goes on to buy the car. And then when he's circling back around, driving the car back out, he mentions this to the guy that sold him the car, who's forgotten the conversation he's had. And he's like, oh, nah, Saturday's a great day. We're always real busy on a Saturday. So yeah, that's a really good point, that the perceived effort, we often get sort of suckered into thinking that it's a personal thing that they've done for us, and therefore we owe them something in return. Quite. So next, the second manipulation, this one is from Cass's book, and one that he speaks about quite a lot. He's called it sludge, but I like to think of it as Velcro. And it's the description of this asymmetry of getting into and out of undesirable sort of purchases, transactions, financial arrangements. And it's, why do companies need only your credit card details to sign you up for a free trial period or a subscription? Yet they seem to need, your address, driver's license, birth certificate, ancestry documents, and a pint of your blood before they'll let you cancel the subscription, when you actually manage to find the cancel subscription button repeatedly 3 or 4 times. Yeah, and in Cass's opinion, this is a very sinister form of manipulation that he would like to see made illegal. And I do tend to agree. I think that basically the entrance and the exit should be similarly clearly signed, and they should take similar amounts of effort to get through. Why is it that companies can take money from us with the flash of a phone, QR code, or tap of a smartwatch, but they can delay, deliberate, and obfuscate just indefinitely when it comes to providing the refunds that they're legally bound to give for the same thing?
The US actually, I think it was only a few months ago, they almost passed a bill, and I think it's called the one-click cancel bill or something like that. It got shot down at the last minute, so we could have been in for a treat there.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool. Yeah. the EU do often lead on these sorts of things, so we will see. That would have been cool if we'd have seen it come from the US. Number 3 is social proof. One of the reasons that we buy things we don't really want is just to fit in with those that have gone before us, our neighbours and those around us that also own it. Why? Because we're social creatures and we want to be accepted into the tribe. This has been causing people to mimic their friends and neighbours forever. Where it became this great weapon of behavioral control is with the internet, specifically when like counters and video counters were introduced, because, well, how could 10 million people be wrong? And wouldn't it be great to belong to a tribe of 10 million? What if the previous 9,900,000 all watched the video or bought the book because others had done it before them? And what if non-human entities like bot farms could have been used to get the first 100,000? Or they were just using a website that didn't need any independent verification, and they just put 100,000 up as their initial number. So, when you're on a web page for a new product you've never heard of, belonging to a company that seems only to exist online, and they're claiming thousands of satisfied customers, how can you verify that claim? And how much weight should you put on that claim if you can't verify it?
Man, it's a really good question, isn't it? Like, you see it all the time. I was trying to do some quite nerdy stuff the other day, and I was actually looking, ironically, for Skyscanner prices. And I found this website, and it was saying, we have like 19,000 apps using this. I was like, 19,000 apps getting Skyscanner data. I've never seen one, never come across one in real life. So, I'm not sure this is true. But yeah, I wonder how much of it happens anyway. See on Amazon, like I used to not look at it, and you're like, how often do you leave a review? Maybe leave a review one every 100 times. It's probably when something's gone wrong. If something like a very standard, I don't know, tea towel on Amazon has 5,000 reviews, you're thinking, okay, I must put that out. That means that this has been bought by 5 million people. Is that wrong? Oh God, I'm doing terrible maths.
Depending on your rate of leaving a review, one in 1,000. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I also think, the authenticity of the review, like, part of it might be reading the actual review. If they don't mention the product in any way and it's super vague and, then like, what are the odds they're actually talking about that thing? Anyway.
Oh my God, yeah, you're right. That does happen.
That's sort of the game. And I think part of not being manipulated or fooled by it is just understanding that the game is afoot and it's being played and it's being manipulated. The manipulators are manipulating. So we'll park that one. We'll come back to sort of how you can go about avoiding that in the key takeaways and how to navigate the space section. But we'll move on to number 4, which is emotional manipulation or tugging at your heartstrings. So imagine an algorithm that knows whether or not you're happy, sad, angry, or fearful. Now imagine that same algorithm belongs to a platform that you're spending, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day on, and that they actually ran back in 2010 in conjunction with 2 big American universities, an emotional manipulation trial that showed that they could feed you particular content and then based on your responses in terms of the content of your posts that you were uploading, back when people used to upload sort of statuses and updates directly into Facebook, they could assess how effectively they had basically milked your emotions. And it worked. And that was 15 years ago. And that was when they made the, cataclysmic PR error of actually publishing the research with proper academic institutions rather than just doing it all in-house, keeping all the data and the insights and denying ever having done it. Now imagine that platform has billions of users and that you probably spend at least a couple of hours a day on it because that platform owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So that was Meta that ran that study. So think back to a time when you were on one of those platforms and you had this uncanny sort of perfect fit of the right thing at the right moment. Well, what if that moment was created by the platform so that you would want the right thing?
Man, it's spooky, isn't it? And the thing is as well, you can just tell, like with these intelligent algorithms, like even before AI, they were able to do this. Have you ever had that feeling where you're like, this feels like it was supposed to be, like, I was meant to see this now? Yeah, the other day I just saw an advert come up. I've been nerding out on a very particular type of AI workflow, N8N. and just come up on Instagram. I normally just scoot past all the ads, but there was an ad came up and the hook said, "Are you in London building AI workflows?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am. I'll stop and watch your ad." And sure as hell, tomorrow I'm going to go to the free event. So they've done a good job manipulating me. I'll come back and tell you whether it's actually been beneficial or not next week.
Yeah, well, me and all the listeners are going to be dialing in next week for sure to find out how that's gone, and whether you've been catfished and to what extent. Yeah, and how much they've turned you upside down and shaken you till all the coins come out. But yeah, maybe it'll be really useful, because of course that's the flip side. Sometimes they're just reading you so well that they're providing you with this amazing service of basically having a shopping assistant follow you around the shops, but they predict all of your desires and what you do want. That's the thing that makes it hard. Most people don't want to walk away from the platform because there's enough there, it's sticky enough, although it sort of goes into that sort of sludge or Velcro point actually, that it's a lot harder to leave WhatsApp, Instagram and Facebook than it is to join them. And they make themselves as sticky as possible by integrating it. You use it to log into other services, and they try and sort of just give you enough through the platform that you can't sort of really get by without it. But yeah, what makes it hard is that sometimes it works really blooming well. And even in the sort of cold light of day, a week later, you're like, yeah, that was a really great insight. I'm really glad that job application found me, or something. Anyway. We'll get into how you sort of navigate that one. Number 5 is anchoring. So imagine you're listening to this really bloody wonderful, excellent new podcast. Let's call it, I don't know, Signal Over Noise. And I tell you that we're going to bring in a paid version, and it's going to cost you £150 to keep listening and watching. What might you think? Well, probably that's heckin' expensive for what it is. But what if I then said, dear listener, and you, dear brother, that I'm going to offer you a limited time mates rate deal for just £120 per year. Better?
Today only.
Yeah, today only as well. Quite. So yeah, absolutely. Just buy. Where's the buy button? How have we not managed to put that in there? Anyway, of course it's not better. The problem here is that I threw out the anchor. I said this arbitrary nonsense number of £150. And then I slightly undercut my own absurd, outlandish price. Like, had it been not for something that you are, absolutely within your rights and expectations to continue to expect that we'll continue providing for free, then, this might have had actually quite a profound effect. There's a famous example in another really great book on this called Predictably Irrational, where they talk about The Economist doing 3 parallel offers on the landing page. And it's like, you can have a text only subscription, you can have a text and internet, and you can have an internet. And there's almost no price differential between them. So you think, oh, I'm only paying an extra blah number of pounds to get the text and internet versions. But they did their research, and almost everyone is either exclusively on text or exclusively on the internet. So actually the differential between them is just free money, basically, to them. So anyway, that's anchoring, where you throw out something that doesn't really mean a lot, and then you undercut it. And because we often experience the world in relative terms rather than absolute terms, we're like, oh yeah, relative to that higher number you just said, that lower one, pretty good, great buy. Anyway, and number 6, lastly, this one's all me. Anchoring was a bit of him and a bit of me, I think, is reputational piggybacking. So imagine an outlandish online claim. Say that advert doing the rounds for that tiny novel heating device that aims to heat your home at a fraction of the cost of traditional heating. Imagine that's where it stops. You'd be like, well, why would all the heating companies not have brought this out, or like some disruptive tech company? What's all of that about? But then imagine they go a bit further and say that the government and or your energy supplier has been suppressing this from you and keeping it a secret so that you continue to spend lots of money on your energy. So what does this do? It's obviously an appeal to conspiratorial thinking, but it also attempts to use an association with a known authority in heating, your energy supplier, to give the scammer some perceived legitimacy. It implies, firstly, that your energy supplier knows about the product and that they're engaged in some sort of underhand intervention to keep it out of your hands because it's so good, and that the product's legit. So that's wild. You can see how basically just bringing in some expert or authority figure and then just creating a conspiracy that they are some malicious character not acting in your best interest, then you create a lot more potential sort of perceived authority for yourself, which again is something we spoke about when we were reviewing that Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, that actually Machiavelli spoke about doing this, whatever it was, 300, 400 years ago, about it being a really effective way of building up your own reputation is if you don't have a reputation in a particular sphere, go and attack someone that does. Imagine, I don't know, you're some YouTuber that plays video games and 12 and 13-year-olds love you and you rip them off with like, you know, pump and dump coins and crappy soft drinks, and you want to make it in boxing. And, you know, you have the clout and the financial clout and media pull to get a really fucking high profile boxer in the ring with you. If you land no punches, then you're just in the same position you were when you started, which is nobody respects you in boxing. If you land some and you go several rounds with this person, then suddenly you're someone who went several rounds with whoever it is, Mike Tyson or whoever. So that's it. It's really powerful. And for the outsider that doesn't really have any skin in the game in that space and doesn't have a reputation, there are essentially no costs. I see it as well. In medicine, it happens a lot. Any perceived authority figure, basically, who has some relevant expertise, outsiders can attack them to leverage their products, basically. So regarding this little energy device, like obviously if it were legit and it were like massively more efficient, then, you know, Curry's, John Lewis or some other shop would be stocking it and supplying it. But the problem is that these shops are legitimate business institutions that respect consumer rights and have returns policies. So they need their stuff to work before they start selling it. And basically it doesn't in this scenario. So if and when a really great solution comes up that's going to, you know, revolutionize heating costs in an economy where costs of heating are really high, then you'll know about it. And legitimate good faith actors will also get in on it, not just like ropey ass companies that have existed for 8 seconds online. So yeah, that's reputational piggybacking.
Yeah, bro. Any downfall can make something complicated. Make it simple for me with your key takeaways.
Yeah, righto. So key takeaways. I'm going to fire off 6 in a row. But before that, one that's not linked to any specific manipulation is that basically you've got to take note that the best forms of manipulation wouldn't have you feel them and recognize them as manipulation. So whenever you feel really taken in by something really compelling and it's not obvious that you're being manipulated, pause, take a breath, maybe close your eyes, suck in some air and say, how fascinating. And then ask yourself, is it fascinating? Probably not. But that doesn't matter. What you're now doing is you've basically given yourself that space to get away from that, you know, thinking fast and into that thinking slow, like sort of out of emotions and into logic by asking yourself, how fascinating.
Yeah, I was just reflecting on like the TikTok shop thing, right? Hey, I'm not, but if I was an avid TikTok user, I was like, oh, that's such a cool gadget. Like, oh, I just saw something. I saw one on Instagram the other day. It was like a pooper scooper for dog owners, but it was like a little mechanical arm. And at first I was like, wow, that's great because who wants to pick up their own dog shit? But the reality of it is, how disgusting and dirty is that thing going to get? And how impossible is it going to be to clean? Whereas kind of like with TikTok being an all-in app, one-stop shop for buying things, it's got a card ready to go, address, everything, one click buy. Oh yeah, you're right. The best defense is to just think for a second, oh, yeah, maybe it's not quite as simple as the video makes it out to be. Maybe there are some maintenance issues with this thing that I'm never going to want to clean because it's covered in dog shit. So yeah, sorry, really, really good takeaway for at least how to defend against and recognize when it's manipulation at play.
Yeah. And so there's 6 specific ones now. First, perceived effort. Like it just doesn't matter. Does the product do what you want it to or need it to or not? Like that's what matters. That's it. Next, sludge or Velcro. Imagine every online contract, subscription, or purchase that you engage in as if you're making a dodgy deal in a dimly lit back room of some dodgy bar or nightclub that you don't really want to be in with somebody awfully crooked. Why? Well, firstly, there's a pretty high chance that that's exactly who you are doing business with. But more importantly, it's basically the not obviously unscrupulous business deals that you'll fall for. It's the dodgy ones well presented as if they're legit. So just imagine that they're not. If you're going into a dodgy backroom deal, well, what are you going to do? You're going to locate all the exits. You're going to make sure that the route to them is unblocked. And then you're going to read all the hecking small print. I think I've mentioned in another episode, or perhaps it's coming up, the April Fool's Day joke, where a small high street chain in the UK included in the small print for a special promotion, quote, "the undisputed rights to your everlasting soul," end quote. And in a day, they got more than 10,000 sign-ups to their promotion. Yeah, so pretty wild.
Do the devil's work. I love it.
Yeah, true. And so on to number 3, that's the social proof defense. Basically, there's confirmation that other people like it, therefore it must be good. Can't be trusted at all online. And why? Because the internet's flooded with bots that are watching, liking, and sharing content, plus generating it. And there are many websites that don't independently verify the numbers of views or likes that people claim, so they might be entirely spurious. Besides, basically everyone is online. Many of these people, you wouldn't trust or value their opinions with how you should spend your time or live your life offline. So why do it online? And what's more important to you than how you spend your time? So I would advocate that you ask only the opinions of people who you think well of. Allow friends, family, and other people you respect to provide your social proof, your recommendations, not the faceless masses. Number 4, emotional manipulation defenses. So if you're using Meta, read Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, then know that you're the product. And they know, at least reasonably well, or they did back in 2010, and they've probably got a whole lot better at it, how to bring your emotions up to a certain point and then put you in that moment in front of a company that's got a product that they can sell that specific person at that specific time and get the most bang for the buck. Because actually Facebook advertising, quite expensive. So they're going to be looking to make a good profit on you. So yeah, if it seems too good to be true, it's because Facebook engineered the whole situation to make you feel that way. So here's a solution. Be intentional. Ask yourself before logging on, what do I need to purchase right now? Write it down and don't rush into having Meta change your mind. If they do convince you that you want something else, write that down on the list as well, and then do a cold debrief, that is an offline debrief, whether or not you really want or need that thing that they're pushing before you purchase it. And preferably, do the purchase tomorrow. Sleep on it. Number 5, anchoring. Often, it is all just numbers on a screen. The question of whether or not it's cheaper than that other arbitrary pie-in-the-sky number is not the one that matters. The question is, what is it worth to you? And the answer is going to be some sort of composite of how much expendable cash you have, how it's going to positively impact your life, and what you might otherwise do without this thing. The solution here, I think, is to think of the number that you're about to be charged, not in relation to the other numbers, but instead of in terms of fair value to you and your life. And how could you otherwise spend that money or invest it more productively in your own life? If you can't think of any good answers, then, well, actually, it's probably a pretty good priced product for you after all. And lastly, number 6 on the reputational piggybacking thing. Okay, so someone's talking smack about someone else. It's pretty entertaining stuff, and the social media algorithms tend to reward it. If person A is trashing person B's reputation to get you interested in their products, ask yourself, what are the incentives here? Are they offering you a free or cost price service that aims to genuinely help you? Would they be happy for you to choose a competitor's product? They're just that passionate about their thing, and they really do think that this authority figure is wrong or crooked. Or are they selling you some crap built off the back of attacking someone else's reputation? And if so, what's the payoff they're expecting?
Boom. I feel safer already.
Good. Well, in that case, in yours and my safe hands, we'll wrap it up and sign it off. Hey, so thank you all for listening to the Signal Over Noise podcast. We hope to see you again soon. Till then, be well and do good.
Ta-ra.